Hey guys, Greg here, Bone Tactical. We're gonna be doing a bunch of really cool gear testing today. I've got a bunch of stuff that we're gonna call our non-permissive environment gear. This is not an unboxing. This is the real deal here, guys. What we are doing today is an absolute testing video. We're going out here on what they call Holy Week or Semana Santa here in Latin America. It's extremely dangerous. Not recommended for foreigners, especially to be traveling, anybody with anything nice. And we're taking all our camera equipment, a really nice truck, all kinds of stuff. In fact, all of the roads in all of Latin America during Holy Week are so crowded and so busy. There's a tradition of people wearing masks. So that just really leads to the danger of robbers and thieves and everything, because you don't even know who the people are, and it's culturally acceptable for guys to be going around on a mat with a mask on. So super dangerous. Roads are so busy that we're taking back roads. So we're going to be going through the mountain here. You can see this. That's all. There's nothing out there. We're going to be doing like a 50 or 100-mile trek. I didn't plan out the entire route. It's probably about 60 miles as the crow flies, but to over that mountain range and to the beach through 4x4 hardcore trails. So stay tuned. We've got a ton of gear, everything from gun holsters, pistol accessories, got my Glock on me, magazines, a cool crossbow, all kinds of 4x4 off-road accessories, and just non-permissive environment man stuff. So stay tuned for more. Something a lot of people don't consider is how they're going to carry their pistol, and mine right here is accessible with my seatbelt on, okay, and shirt tucked behind just while I'm driving, because I have the El Sicario Covert Concealed Carry shirt on that I'm wearing right now, which when I get out of my vehicle, I just pull the shirt over and it completely conceals it because it's a double layer fabric, all right? But this snappy holster, it allows me to pop in and out of the waistband. Nice holster. They sent me a couple of them. The one that I'm wearing, furthermore, has what they call the wedge, which is connected to it. And the wedge, so to speak, what it actually does is pushes out on my belt and kind of like tucks the handle of the pistol back. So when it further aids in concealment. And concealment, guys, is so important because the element of surprise is your major advantage when you have a pistol and you're carrying one for self-defense, especially if you're not in the military, if you don't have a team. Hard target versus gray man balance is what you guys need to check out that video if you're more interested in that. But definitely what we need to be aware of while we're driving and what we should consider, and I'm taking this opportunity to show the snappy holster for that this is a holster that I can tuck in and out. It's really nice because it's easily accessible, but it's a heavy duty clip. Okay, it's very thick plastic on there on the clip. Again, it could potentially break, but then even if the plastic clip breaks, my pistol's probably still going to be tucked inside my waistband, so it's probably not just going to fall out, which I like that idea. It doesn't have to be metal. It's so much to consider with a holster, guys. The plastic clip doesn't mess up your belt, so if you carry with a metal clip every day on your belt, you're going to go through belts like crazy. And if you have to take your belt off to put the holster on, or if you can just clip the holster in and out without removing your belt is another factor. These are definitely vacuum sealed, either Boltaron or Kydex. Very, very well detailed holster. I really like this snappy holsters. This particular one is called the Big Iron. The one that I'm wearing on my waistband right now I think it's called the Cock holster. Yep. 8 IWB with wedge. Like I said, it has the wedge. It's for the Glock 19. And so what that really allows me to do, I like to carry on my hip. My hip is completely covered right now driving this vehicle. I like to carry an appendix holster. Sometimes I carry an appendix holster like almost behind the back a little bit. Not completely behind the back, but like off behind the rear hip. And that's a great way to keep it concealed and carry and not have anything right on my hip line. There's times where I want to be narrower. I'm a really big guy. I'm like 270 pounds and making this video right now. I'm just big and wide. And if I get, a lot of times tight spaces, there's chairs, right? If I sit in a chair, tons of different chairs, that if I have my holster on my waistband, it clips. So I want to have it back to the back where it'll still be resting on the chair, but it's not going to bang on the chair going in to sit down. So much to consider. This snappy holster, again, they sent me a couple of them. This is like some cool fleck-tarn pattern. They do different patterns. They do a really good job with the holster. Fit and finish is good. So I got tons of holsters. I have tons of holsters that come in, and I share them all with you. Right now I'm in the danger zone. Like I say, driving. It's a holiday week here, and so we're taking a mountainous route to go out to the beach and just do some gear testing, blow off some steam, also enjoy a mountain route. But we can't go to the beach. It's not a good idea. It's taking main city roads just because it's so crazy. The Holy Week times, again, too over the top dangers, especially, having a really nice vehicle like what we're in right now, and being a foreigner as well, obviously being a foreigner. So there's the gray man theory plays into that role. And I like my odds a lot better here in the mountains, although it's a different kinds of danger. So I still need to be prepared, and I can very quickly access my firearm. Just grab my hand down there, get a good firm grip on it without having to move any clothing, move anything out of the way. The seatbelt's tucked behind it, and then I just push out and start shooting if I have to, right? Of course, like I say, so much to consider. I'm probably going to be driving with the windows down if I'm really that worried that I'm going to have to be shooting a lot, and then I might even have, earplugs in or anything like that. You start getting into degrees of where it's not even important to be the real gray man anymore. Right now, I'm hoping I don't have to use my firearm, but there's no reason to have a firearm on me that I can't get to. So great holster's a really big deal. Questions, comments below. Let me know if you guys want to see more of the holster stuff, gun stuff, pro tips, or knife tips, knife making, knife reviews, because we've got more knife reviews coming soon. If you like the 4x4 off-road stuff better, let me know that. And we're doing it all right now. So stay tuned. We're heading out to the beach still. Go literally crossing over a mountain range. And so we're about halfway there. Just did a little river crossing. I'll show you that. Close out here with this section of the video with telling you about the 4x4, that area we just showed you with the bridge washed out. That bridge actually washed out during the Hurricane Iota and Eta and completely destroyed that whole bridge. So now it's a different type of bridge crossing. I'm about to cross another bridge here right now that the hurricanes destroyed the majority of the bridges. And it's interesting because, they're just provisional now, fixed, even though it's been years after the hurricane. So definitely something to consider. I'm about to close out here, and I'll show you a video now of this second bridge that we're crossing over. And same thing, it's just you have to know how to drive. You have to be prepared. There's dangers and good, positive and negatives for this route as well. But the positives and negatives to taking the city, and positives and negatives to taking the mountain route. The mountain route, one of the dangers is very bad road conditions. So stay here with me, guys, and follow along and see what we end up getting into at the beach. Right in front of me right now, there's a little bit of, a washout. So I'm going to show you exactly what the danger is. This mountain road, actually, the local people we're really close to the beach now, so the local people have basically fixed the actual, so it's really nice. The roads, they kind of just took some heavy equipment through here from over by the beach side because they get so much traffic coming through this time of year, and they fixed it. But as soon as they fixed it, you can see right here, it's already washed out. So this is the danger. You never really know when you're gonna have more of a washout, and everything that they do is kind of just provisional. So they put in this tube or whatever this is, and it's already washed out to this point. It's of course only a matter of time before there's no passage here at all. And if it is raining or if it's dark, and this is all very loose, you can see how loose this dirt is. None of this is compacted. None of it's really permanent or anything. So the danger here is just, a landslide, of having a landslide when it's on your vehicle. So not only do you have to be prepared from a perspective of security, but you also need to know what you're doing with off-road and vehicle dynamics as far as driving techniques, okay? And we do have another sponsored item right here that I'll show you really quickly. It's the Votagoo bag here, Votagoo. Again, I'll link all this stuff in the description below, but this particular bag was sent in for testing, along with the gloves that are in there. You already saw those. Pretty cool bag. The one thing I will say about this bag is it definitely does look tactical. So it will pretty much hold any pistol, but you can see, you know, the look is always going to be tactical. It doesn't really work very well for the real gray man theory because, you know, although it'll be great for holding a pistol in it, you know, everybody's around you is going to still know you have a pistol. So I still much more highly recommend at least having a pistol that is fully concealed with a shirt like the El Sicario covert concealed carry shirt, and then this snappy holster that I've got on like that. So I recommend it over the bag unless the bag is more gray man applicable. And I have a off-body carry video where I tested a bunch of different bags. So if you want to see more about bags that I do recommend for gray man theory, then check those out. This particular bag that we've got over here, I don't recommend it for the real gray man theory. It's only for situations where people are already going to know you have a gun on you, and you know, whatever that might be, or might already know, or might assume that you have a gun on you. If you're okay with that and it doesn't affect the situation that you're in, then sure, carry your gun in that bag. Let's continue on our trek towards the beach. Really cool little location here. The route up here was pretty cool. Had a really cool 4x4 expedition just to get here. One part of the road just had a giant hole in it. Another part had washed out, so just kind of cool stuff. Natural spring, way deep into the mountains on the side of the road. I'm going to take this opportunity to just show you the knives that we're going to be reviewing today. There's a bunch of knives. We've got dispatch knives, Odin Wolf. I've got some Kemimoto gloves that I'm going to use for the knife testing. Okay, so they're like a knockoff of the Oakley gloves. I'm going to be, you know, doing some hardcore testing with the knives, so I'm going to need those. Really quickly going to show you the knives right here, and we'll see if we are able to, you know, do some chopping and cutting in comparison. Then I'll kind of walk you through the differences of the designs and whatnot. This is the Odin Wolf Ambulo fixed blade. All right, I like Odin Wolf a lot, just specifically because they're not the best knives in the world in any way, but they're really great knives for the price. So you really get a lot for being a cheap knife, okay? And so this is the Ambulo here. It's pretty thick, pretty heavy duty stock. I would say it's not very sharp. I would say it's very comparable to the EDC Mutt, which is what I'm using today. The EDC Mutt is gonna be a more comfortable in hand, better contours and stuff like that, but probably 5 or 10 times the price, a better steel. But this is gonna be a knife that's kind of a little rough around the edges, something that you can get sharper yourself, and maybe could get by in a, let's say, an outdoors bushcraft type scenario or use case. So nice sheath on there, and a ferro rod that comes with it, with a couple different options, belt dangler, or also the G-clip style options for carry. So here we have, this is a Terminalia Amazonia, something along those lines. Nargusta wood trunk here, so really hard wood, just really beautiful exotic hardwood, but just common in this area. So actually some people just cut this tree down to make this little area here. Later in the day, it's very early in the morning right now, but later in the day the local community will be here bathing. This is a dispatch knife, you know, hanging out and sunbathing and hanging out in the watering hole that they just built for Holy Week. But this is the dispatch fixed blade hunting knife. Okay, so it's, you know, dispatch is going to be your lower end, really cheap lower end stuff, cheap Chinese. This has two knives, an 8-inch and a 12-inch. So it's got this little tiny survival knife in there. And this is just really like cheap gas station knife stuff here, guys. As crappy as it gets, basically. Nothing, you know, really junky system. They sent me this for review, so I'm glad that I can show you kind of what the differences are and what the deal is. It's just super cheap, injection molded. The sheath doesn't fit. Okay, you can't take the big knife out without taking the little knife out. And so, you know, it's kind of like a weird, it can go in either way. Everything's jangly, nothing fits right, nothing's well thought out. The materials are terrible, just an injection molded handle. The design kind of sucks. You know, a lot of unnecessary features, really thin, junky metal, you know, just something that won't hold up to any kind of use. Almost like a one-time use deal. So I'm gonna show you the difference between basically the worst jingle jangle, terrible design, terrible sheath, terrible materials, and then the best Bowie style knife that you can get, which is this. You know, doesn't fall out of the sheath on its own. Okay, you've got one style retention, and then you've got double retention, beautiful handmade sheath, crazy good belt attachment system. The difference with this one just flopping around. So this has your belt attachment system to where pop that off, and you know, the material's a million times better. You can, I can actually feel in my hand the balance, the weight, and just tell you if it's even a properly designed knife by looking at it, if the balance is right, if it's a strong enough material. Just because there's no balance to it, it's like, it feels like it weighs nothing. So you can tell there's nothing to it. It's just pure crap. So in fact, I'm gonna take this chance to just do a little head-to-head testing between the best Bowie knife that you can get on the market, as far as 100% handmade work of art, the double tapper, made in conjunction with a friend of mine in Israel, special operations guy, and then the worst Chinese garbage that you can find in any gas station or flea market. So let's see if this will cut cardboard. It will cut cardboard. Not well, but it'll cut it. All right, let's see if this will cut cardboard. It will definitely cut cardboard way better. Okay, show that again. Way better. Obviously, this is gonna cut better at shaving sharp. This is not. What's crazy is that how much stronger this is. And don't take my word for it, just look at the difference in thickness. So this knife is like 5 times as thick as the cheap Chinese crap. It's a better steel. I make these personally one at a time. Handmade means the whole heat treat process. Perfect metallurgy, 62 Rockwell. And what's crazy is how sharp it is with how thick it is, because it's hard to make a really thick, really strong knife sharp. It's always a balance between strength and sharpness. It's like an axe. An axe isn't gonna break, so this is a balance of both sharpness and strength. I'm not gonna beat around the bush anymore. I'm gonna get serious. I'm gonna put these gloves on, and I'm gonna try and see which one of these knives head to head gets destroyed. Testing, slamming one knife into the other knife. This might be dangerous. Pieces might go flying, but we're gonna see what happens. These gloves, they kind of suck. You can tell they're cheap. They come with this stupid little aluminum carabiner. But guess what, guys? It's go time. Knife to knife, let's see which survives. One stab, the tip broke off of that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No tip breakage, no tip damage whatsoever. I'm gonna stick this one about halfway here and see if it'll flex. Done. No flex, handle broke completely off. I'm gonna stick this one in this hole here. No damage, no breakage, no bendage. The difference between a cheap piece of junk here, guys, that I can literally cut in half with a legitimate knife. There's definitely some damage to the edge here, but there's no knife that you can take and slam one knife blade into the other knife blade and it's not gonna take any damage whatsoever. This can be reground. I'm gonna reground this edge and keep it into testing. The knife is still 100% usable for all intents and purposes. It actually probably just basically has a little bit of scalloping here, which would just make it cut like serrations. Can it still cut? Let's see. Still cuts fine, still sharp, just basically has some more serrations on there. That's the Bone Tactical difference. Guys, you will not see another knife maker taking his knife head to head, blade to blade, and slamming them like that, because there aren't very many knives out there, if any, that can do that and stand up and completely destroy the other competition, and still be usable. I have never seen it happen before. It's not a test anybody else is willing to do for their knives, but that's the Bone Tactical difference. So the rest of these knives here, I'll get into some testing, but let's keep switching some stuff up here a little bit and keep going on for other gear. The gloves are okay. They're definitely cheap Chinese knockoffs of the Oakleys, but they work. My cheap glasses from Flying Fisherman kept my eyes from getting a piece of metal in them when I was just destroying this other knife here from Dispatch, so let's keep rolling. We've got 4 more knives to unbox here, so I'll walk you through those and we'll do a little compare and contrast, and of course I'll get into some testing of the knives and showing you the differences, talking you through what differences steel can make and why some knives are much more expensive than other knives, you know, materials and fabrication techniques, everything that goes into these knives along the way. So this is another Dispatch here. Dispatch, they're super cheap knives. Everything about them you can tell. This is a tactical fixed blade is what they're calling it. Just super, super cheap knife. Really cheap. Loosely fitting injection molded sheath. Just a simple belt clip. It's better than the sheath on the other one because it has at least a little bit of retention. This is what we would consider to be like a dive knife. Again, it's going to be very similar to your Odin Wolf knife. The Odin Wolf is going to be better in every way, a little bit more expensive, better materials, better fit and finish. Okay, better sheath. And then your top of the line, yet again, is going to be something like the EDC Mutt from Bone Tactical. They're all going to be contenders for belt knives. This particular one from Dispatch, you just saw me destroy the Bowie. It's cheap, it's thin, it's light, I could tell it's not good material. It's probably gonna shatter. The other one was really, really hard. It was so hard that it dented the Bowie knife, okay, incredibly hard. It was probably like 64 Rockwell, but it shattered, destroyed it. So this, I can say this is probably similar. It's so thin, it's just gonna shatter and break on me. The handle was terrible, everything about it was terrible. So this Dispatch, I'm gonna say it's about the same thing. We'll get into some testing of that. The Odin Wolf, all right guys, it's just gonna be overall D2 steel, overall better, more of a workhorse of a knife. Gonna be something you're gonna have to sharpen yourself, right? Maybe put some more contours on the handle, make it a little bit more comfortable in hand. But it's a usable knife at a medium price point, okay? It's what we call a production knife. Then when you start getting into a full custom blade, you don't need to do anything to it. It's amazing. Shaving sharp, beautiful design, amazing in hand, feels great. You can use it all day, no calluses, no blisters. Supreme Materials, Bone Tactical Super Steel in this case, exotic Granadillo hardwood handles. So just the top of the line, individually handmade, which means that it's going to be a little bit better performing even if it's another knife out of the same steel. Why? Because I can get it to the perfect Rockwell hardness. I get the maximum Rockwell hardness first through the hardening process, then I temper it back down to the quality that I want, of a balance between strength, flexibility, toughness, hardness, all of that, and I can eke all that out of the steel very, very carefully, one at a time. When you start getting production knives like this that are big batch made in giant batches, you just can't get the performance out of that. It can be the same material, but you can't get it out, the performance. These corners here, these angles, this is handmade. I look at every one, make it by hand, little piece of sandpaper going in, getting everything perfect. These ones, it's done with a machine. There's rough angles everywhere, okay? Little small details like these screws that could come out on the handles and fall out on you. This, permanent handle scales, heavy duty 2-ton epoxy with riveting bronze permanent rivets. So just tons of tiny little details that has that separation between a handmade knife and the Japanese. I'll give you an example closing out with this unboxing section of the fixed blades. We'll unbox the folders, and then we'll continue into some other gear. But in closing out this discussion of these 3 fixed blade knives that we've got here that are very similar, what we'd consider your just general use belt knife, good to have for a man. The Japanese used to say that the soul of the maker goes into the knife. And I really honestly believe that. It's not just the soul, it's the experience, it's the livelihood, it's the knowledge, and literally a piece of me goes into every one of these knives. And that's what you get when you get a handmade knife. You get a little piece of the owner in there with it. And it's just truly something that, the difference between something that's just gonna be beating around, throwing around, you don't care if you lose it, or something that's a handmade, heirloom quality work of art that has a little piece of my soul in it. The only 3 things that remain right now are these 3 folding knives from Dispatch. We'll see if they're anything like what we've seen so far from Dispatch, which hasn't been necessarily the most greatest things in the world. Again, the only thing this thing says on the box is folding knife for camping, hunting, fishing, whatever. You know, I think, in my opinion, a folding knife like this, if you're just going to be opening boxes with it or something like that, might not be the end of the world. It's definitely very weak. I can tell you right now that I could hit this with the tomahawk, for example, and it would shatter, just shatter the handle, because just the material's very brittle. Might do that here in a future video for you guys. But it's also not like the end of the world, not something I'd want to depend on, but it's a cool design. It feels good in the hand. It's functional, it works, and if it's 10 bucks, then, you know, there might be a place for a $10 folding knife. It's not a tactical tool. It's not for defending yourself. You know, if you want a knife to defend yourself, then all you got to do is throw this around your neck, super fast access, Tradecraft Kank, 100 bucks. We have a model that's under $100, and I do that so that people can have a affordable, handmade, and super effective means to defend themselves. This is not it. But what I would honestly recommend is getting something like this, getting something like one of these, you know, this is what they would consider to be a gentleman's folder. Nothing wrong with it, okay? This is a cool one from Dispatch. It actually has some nice looking accents. Looks like even similar to some carbon fiber, liner lock. So it's got some details, right? It's got a spring in there, so it is spring loaded. So, you know, this is not going to be any kind of a good thing in defending yourself. You're probably going to cut your own hand. It's going to slip out of your hand. You probably won't get it open if you really need to when your fight or flight response is going. So don't think of folding knives really, especially these, as really not hardly any folding knives as like a self-defense tool. Think of it more like having 2 knives, one for self-defense like a Tradecraft Kank, and then another one just for everyday cutting chores. That way I don't have to sharpen my self-defense knife, and because I don't take it out and I don't ever use it. And then I always have, you know, something that's there for everyday chores, and it's good. A man should have a knife, right? A man should have a a knife to be able to, it's a tool, it's a cutting tool. You have to cut everything. And maybe these days, a man doesn't remember that, you know, you have to cut everything from being able to skin an animal to being able to, you know, cut up and prepare food, cutting a patch for a tire, whatever it might be. You should be able to cut things. Even if it's now just opening your Amazon packages, it's still something you should do. Now, you should have a knife on you. I recommend two, because one, now you can defend yourself. And then the other one you can use for cutting stuff, and it's less maintenance. You don't have to, at the end of the day, every day, sharpen your cutting knife if you used it for cutting all day, to make sure that it's also sharp for self-defense. So just carry two. And then these cheap ones, they're great for just opening packages and stuff, like I'm saying. This is like a knockoff of like a Benchmade Griptilian or something like that, because it's got that little thing there, but it doesn't, it's the fit and finish is not good enough to where you can open it on its own. So, you know, it has that locking, whatever they call that Benchmade, it's a knockoff of that. So it's just, the fit and finish is not there. I don't like this one very much at all, but this is kind of like a tactical, even though there's nothing tactical about it, version. If you want to be cool and you think this looks cool, then, you know, you can use this for opening your packages. And then if you want a more kind of a slimline, smaller gentleman folding knife, then this one's cool. I do think that these are fine for what they're for. We'll continue right along. I'm not going to destroy these three knives. I'm probably just going to give them away to maybe some of my employees. I do a employee of the month program with a lot of I have apprentices, I have guys that help me with the construction of my new workshop build, and then I'm also working with the church, doing all kinds of donations and stuff. And so when I get something like this, I like to be able to, you know, give it away to somebody who can use it for, like I say, everyday cutting chores. I showed you about the dispatch knives already, just absolutely destroyed one of them to show you the quality of them. We might destroy the other fixed blade because it's really, there's no real use for it. It's not a strong enough knife to be usable. And then these little pocket folders will work for somebody who's a construction worker or something and wants to be cutting cord, to be, you know, leveling land or whatever it might be, sharpening a stick to make a stake, or even, you know, cutting up your chicken for skinning a chicken or a bird or game here in the mountains. So these knives can be functional. They just have to be not thought of as hard use pocket knives, just a pocket cutting tool. It's cheap, affordable, and like I say, have two knives better than if you're just counting on something that you shouldn't count on to defend yourself. Have a self-defense knife and a cutting tool knife. So the dispatch knives, the folding knives really aren't that bad. We're ended up using them for food prep, really. So they're kind of sharp, and, you know, like we say, they're not going to be any kind of a great self-defense knife, but it can cut a tomato, and making sandwiches with it. So again, pretty sharp, and they can, you know, do the job for a multi-tool, having something nice in your pocket. The fixed blades kind of sucked, but if you want a really cheap knife, I can recommend getting a dispatch knife like this, folding knife, just to have something to cut stuff with. I don't know how long it'll hold an edge, and it definitely won't stand up to any kind of abuse. But for cutting tomatoes for a sandwich for lunch, since we finally made it to the beach here and we've got our stuff to make sandwiches, it does exactly what I need it to do for this. So it's all about having the right tool for the job and not having false expectations for the tool. One really cool thing that we got in is this camping fan from Audrey, and it's battery operated camping fan. So I'm really excited to check this out, because if you're out here on the beach, you know, on a day like today where it's just really hot, then having a little portable fan like this makes a big difference. You know what I mean? I also am probably going to be using this for when I'm in an area where there's power outages and stuff like that. which where I'm at right now in Latin America, there's power outages all the time. So let's say I have AC running, I have a power outage and I want to cool down a little bit. I don't necessarily have to turn a generator on or wait for a generator. It's got lights. Would help a lot in a enclosed environment too. So maybe not here on the beach. It's not going to be the biggest difference. If there was no breeze, it would definitely help. And I definitely am excited to get it for specifically, like if I'm sleeping or something like that and don't have either don't have access to an air conditioning, like I'm camping, or if I'm in an area and there's a blackout or power outage and I lose the use of the AC, then I can use this. So I'm definitely in an enclosed area, it would be better, but for sure, here inside of a tent on the beach at night, definitely would be a cool thing to have a camping fan, and that's a game changer. Take it from me, because being really hot can make an otherwise beautiful camping experience out in nature pretty miserable. From there, being hungry kind of sucks when you're out on the trail or whatever. This is really light. This is Rec Pack. It's a complete meal and it's fast, which are my requirements for either backpacking, survival food, or whatever. Light and fast. This is not as fast as just being able to open it and eat it, but it's lighter. So it's a balance between being light and fast. And in this one in particular, you just add water. This is coffee. I love that. So in the morning, I'm on the run. I throw some water in here in this Rec Pack. I shake it up, and then I drink it, and I get my caffeine, all the carbs that I need for a complete meal, keeping on the go, and don't have to cook anything, heat any water, or anything like that. Really cool idea here from Rec Pack. I'm all for this. So it's two really cool camping accessories. If I was gonna camp here right now, I wouldn't wanna necessarily have to be starting a fire and all this and camping if I was just gonna be camping the night, let's say. I have all my camping gear in the truck here. I could do that if I wanted to. The camping fan would help, setting up the tent here, and then being able to eat and run with the Rec Pack. Right here behind me is an example of the road hazards, or the potential road hazards that are here. And this one in particular is a washout that, you know, huge hole here that would pretty much wreck most small cars, where you really have no way to know other than this stick being in the hole here. And it's just a really big culvert that's just completely busted and washed out. So there's just a massive hole in the ground, and could be really bad because, of course, I'm sure that the rest of it's very weak here. And then over on this side looks like it's just the side of the road, right? But this is a massive drop off here. You would lose your life, honestly. It just goes straight down. There'd be no controlling the vehicle. And then the river's down there probably 300 yards down there. Pretty much a drop-off scenario where coming through here either way, hitting this giant hole, and then losing control of the vehicle, you're gonna be just rolling the vehicle down into this abyss. So gotta be careful. All right, guys, we made a successful trip through the mountains here. We did the whole journey. We're on our way back now. It's been a long day. Started my day today at 3 o'clock in the morning. Now it's late in the afternoon. We came back through this little pass. You guys saw most of it. We're pretty much finishing out the day. What I wanted to finish out with was just talking a little bit about these 3 knives right here that are the belt knives, and just talking a little bit more about what makes, you know, a really good knife a really good knife. I know I talked about that a little bit, but there's edge geometry, which comes into play. So the edge geometry on this one is the middle of the line is decent, but it's really thick and it's got a really short grind angle, so it's not gonna be that sharp. It's gonna be strong as long as they did a good job with the heat treat with this, which is material and production, right? Metallurgy. And, but just the grind angle, the design and the composition of the grind angle on something like this that has a very long grind angle, it's gonna be much sharper. It's gonna be a much sharper knife. It will be sacrificing strength if the steel is not high quality, which this is the Bone Tactical Super Steel, and then you have to make sure that the steel is properly heat treated according to what the steel is and what characteristics you want to get out of the steel. So I want to balance, it's always a balance of strength and sharpness. And so the thicker grind angle, the thicker edge on it, like this, is going to be less sharp but stronger. And the thinner, you know, is going to be sharper but less strong, unless there's a difference in materials. So something like this, cheap material, dispatch knives, very thin, it might be sharp, it feels like it's pretty hard. So far their knives have been pretty hard, but because it's a cheap material, overly hardened, not properly tempered, then they shatter. They will cut well, they'll do well, until you get any kind of little bit of tweak on there and just shatters, breaks, falls apart, whatever. So this is gonna shatter at some point if I really had to use it, but it's dirt cheap. The sheath sucks, dirt cheap. The next level up is this Odin Wolf, and it's not that sharp. I'd have to resharpen it myself if I really wanted it to be very sharp. It's just almost unfinished, but it's way better, and for the price, if you wanna work on stuff yourself and have a beater, something you're gonna be beating around and cutting up and not afraid about losing or fearful of losing or something like that, and it's very heavy, bulky, not great for carrying on a daily basis, so it's kind of just like a, maybe just a starter knife. If you're learning how to maintain a knife or learning about knives, it might be something good to buy. Once you know that you want one knife, excuse me, for life, once you know that you want a knife that you can hand down to your kids, pass down as an heirloom, something like the EDC Mutt is the way to go. It's light, comfortable, well balanced, really well thought out sheath system, okay? Just the subtle differences between bottom of the line, middle of the line, and top of the line. So talking through how these cut, I'll just go ahead and show you. This one will probably cut well. Just remember, it's very thin, very light. There's no strength to this whatsoever, and it's probably overly hardened because the other knife that I shattered was well overly hardened and just won't hold up. So although it'll cut well because it's very hard, once you start using it, it's gonna break. So it cuts pretty well, but if I were to tweak it or any kind of way, bang it on something or chop with it like this, then you're likely of damaging it and having it break. This really crappy injection molded handle, the handle might come out. If I'm carrying it in the sheath, that could fall out, whatever. There's no real way to clip the sheath on in a real positive way, but it cuts well, all right? Not something that I would want to use, bet my life on, or have to carry if I ever even thought about or considered using it for self-defense, but for making a sandwich, it might work. Dispatch knives. Odin Wolf here, let's see what the Odin Wolf can do. It seems like it's probably not gonna cut as well, and it doesn't cut maybe as well, but it's sharp and it cuts, and it's just not it's not very comfortable, it's rigid, it's bulky, but it cuts, and it's thick enough. I gotta do a little bit more work to cut, but it cuts and it works, and it's the next level up, like we said. It's heavy, it's too heavy and too bulky and not comfortable, sharp edges all around, not ergonomic, all that kind of stuff, but it's got a nice sheath and relatively well thought out carry system. Now the EDC Mutt here, gonna be your top of the line. What you'll have here is just great cutting ability, okay? Just shreds through rope fiber, and really like nothing, right? Like butter. And it's gonna hold that edge for a long time, and it's not gonna break when other stuff might break. So I just keep cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting, and I just have to be careful not to cut my finger off. This guy, I gotta do a little bit more work, not as fun, comfortable to carry. But if I wanted to, if I was on a budget, I could get something like this Odin Wolf and then modify it myself. I would chamfer with a Dremel or something these edges and then sand them all down. I would probably epoxy glue the handle on so it wouldn't fall off, take the screws out, put some Loctite on there, sharpen, change the grind angle, put a better grind angle on there, and, you know, check the steel. If I pop the handles off, I might actually have to anneal it, harden it, and temper it again, possibly go through some, if it's not properly heat treated, then I might have to go through some thermal cycling with it to get it proper to where I can really harden it the way I want to harden it again, and then temper it back down to where I want it. But so when you really get a high-end custom knife, that's kind of the difference. It's all that little stuff that is what you're looking for, like here with the EDC Mutt. And these are just the 3 examples that I have here of these 3 belt knives and kind of talking you through what a $10 belt knife, a $50 belt knife or whatever it is, and a $500 belt knife. So what is the difference there? What do you get? Why is one so much more valuable than the other ones? And as you go up different levels of different quality, you go from bottom of the line production, okay, which you really get nothing other than a disposable tool from Dispatch Knives, not a great carry method, not something you'd want to use to defend yourself. Then you go up to Odin Wolf, which is something that has the appearance of a quality blade, but it's production. So it's just a decent production knife. And then you go into a full custom, 100% handmade knife that's 100% in-house done by experts. And then you get something like the EDC Mutt that is just like the epitome of a cutting tool all across the board, from design, metallurgy, sciences, materials, and really, like I say, a little bit of my soul goes into each one of my knives, as the old Japanese swordsmiths used to say. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Questions and comments below. Let me know what you want to see more of. If it's outdoor adventures, 4x4 off-roading, knife reviews, what you like about the knife reviews, what you don't like, let me know so I can keep these videos coming for you the way that you want them. Bone out.